It makes that. They're bringing it out of me. And I have seen frummies, they will ask that when they meet you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like...
Jews feel entitled to ask that question.
They're not. It's none of their fucking business. This is a private matter between me and God, and I have no idea when and somehow it became socially accepted to ask such an invasive and intrusive question. It's beyond rude. It's unimaginable. In the non-Jewish world, would it be socially acceptable to go up to an absolute stranger that you've never met in your life and say, "Hi, where do you pray?" I don't get why that's okay. And I have had it happen to me so many times. I've had it happen to me where a guy will come up to me and say, "Hey, I haven't seen you in 10 years. Where do you daven now?" And
that's the normal question.
And I'm like, I'm not going to answer that. And so I remember that when this happened, and I went up to somebody who was from, and I said, some guy just came up to me and said, "I haven't seen you in 10 years, where do you daven now?" And I asked him, I said, "Do you find that person was from?" And I said, "Do you think that's acceptable?" And they said, "Yeah, what's wrong with it?" Yeah. See, frummies have no clue. They have no clue of what's acceptable and what's not. So what they do is that they have no social skills. All they have is what they grow up seeing, and they see everyone else talk this way. This is how their parents talk. This is how their parents' friends all talk to each other. This is how everybody talks to each other in their schools, in their yeshivas, and in their shuls. And they think it's okay. You know what? It's not okay. It's not okay to talk like that.
Let me stop you. What percentage of Jews do you think feel uncomfortable with that question?
In the frum world?
Yeah.
Very few, probably. Because they grow up and they think this is okay.
So, yeah, most frum Jews find that perfectly okay.
Right. And I'm sorry, I don't find it okay.
But the reason you don't find it okay is not because of the question inherent, it's because of your life situation.
Okay, you could say that.
Like, I'll be really honest, I hated that question too when I was very insecure where I was going to shul and I'd been kicked out of various shuls and I didn't want the surahs. But when I got that resolved, when I finished my Orthodox conversion, when it's not my favorite question, I still don't like it, but I feel when I got my life situation improved in that respect, it was much easier for me to deal with that question. And I'll give you another analogy. Before I finished my Orthodox conversion, for years, everyone would just instinctively ask me, "Who converted you? Who converted you? Who converted you?"
That's none of their fucking business, is it?
Right, I'm just describing what happened. So again, I didn't like that question. I didn't want to get into it because my life situation was such that I didn't want to answer that. When I got that resolved, then I feel more comfortable dealing with it. It's still not a favorite question of mine either, but I think it's primarily about us not being content in our life situation, so that things that ordinary people, that question is really not that much more uncomfortable for you to deal with than for you to simply walk down Pico Boulevard on Shabbat. You write in your book how uncomfortable it is for you to walk around in the community on Shabbat because you keep running into families and kids.
So I want to tell them I wrote a book because we haven't got up to that. So
you tell them about it.
All right, so I wrote a book,
and
I'll tell them real briefly. I'll give them the background. I wrote a book. Basically, it's a compilation of 40 essays, and I put them out every month starting in the middle of 2006 until about the middle of 2009. And they are on a lot of different dark topics. How would you describe this book?
I'd say it's like a whale.
A whale?
W-A-I-L. Like the Book of Lamentations. Like, what's the Hebrew word for Lamentations that we read?
Echa?
Echa. It's like Echa.
How
it's like, woe is me. My temple has been destroyed. My wife had to eat her young. My, the goyim came and destroyed everything that I hold sacred. Everything I've done in life, I've just been totally screwed over. I've been screwed over in my employment. I was fired 4 times from various computer programming jobs that I have. I hate working for corporations. I hate being in yeshiva because I have some really nasty experiences in yeshiva. And this one yeshiva, the guys came out, they were about to beat me up. You know, yeshiva, this is supposed to be a holy place, and they were going to beat me up. And every yeshiva I went to, I'd never felt comfortable because I stuck to my garb, to my way of doing things, because I wouldn't assimilate and take on the practices and clothing and the mannerisms and the ways of speaking and wearing clothes of the yeshiva that I went to. They treated me like an outsider, and one time I was going to this shul for a year or two. The rabbi, and because I didn't assimilate to the Chabad ways, the rabbi stood up, said, "We have someone who's been eating by us for 2 years, and he refuses to join Chabad." And from people, they ask so many inappropriate questions. They're always pushing alcohol on me, and they say, "Here, have a shot," and "Here, have some alcohol." And here I am, recovering alcoholic, just trying to do what's right by me and by God and by the 12 steps. And Frumies have no clue. They're always pushing alcohol on me. Frumies have no clue. They're always pushing me to have kids. Frumies have no clue. They're pushing me to hold their children. Frumies have had no clue. You know, they ask me, where do I daven? Like, you know, Frumies have no clue. They're just like on me asking inappropriate questions. My work life has been a disaster. My love life has been a disaster. I've had these matchmakers just like, they wouldn't even set me up with the women that I was interested in, wouldn't even give me a chance. They ask inappropriate questions. They don't know what they're doing. All these Jewish websites, they had no clue. They're just not true to Torah. They're just kafir, it's pure heresy. All these rabbis have no clue. Like, Israel has no clue. It's a filthy, filthy country. Like, just the level of hygiene was just so low. I mean, it was just like I was dying from malnutrition while I was there. I was like in agony. My stomach was like knotted up. And supposedly they have all this great medical care in Israel. Supposedly as great as the United States, supposedly. Let me tell you, it sucks. It's third world. You know why I had these intestinal problems for a year when I was in Israel? It was because of malnutrition. As soon as I came to the United States and went to see a doctor, they said it was malnutrition. Because when I was in the yeshiva, they gave such crappy food. I was dying from malnutrition. They had no decent medical care. It was filthy in Israel. Filthy. I went there thinking it was the Holy Land. It was Surus. I will never go back. I don't care what happens to Israel. It's disgusting. And my family was horrible to me. And my dad was horrible to me. And my teachers were horrible to me. All the other kids in school were horrible to me. I can't launch my comedy career because Hollywood is just horrible to me. Like, I got kicked out of this comedy crew I was in. Like, they made a full-length documentary on me. Was it ever released? No, it was never released. I had a great job working for a major metropolitan daily for 3 years. I was covering like professional sports. I was so happy. I did it so well. But no, I had to go get religious and ruin my life. If I had known then that becoming religious would have ruined my life, I would never have become religious. It just, like, I had something good going. I was prepared to go to graduate school. I was going to become a psychotherapist. And then the day before, I just pulled out and I went on to study Unix programming. And yes, I got some good panasa for a little while, but then I got fired. And I got treated so badly by corporate America. Corporate America were just a bunch of jerks. Just totally, I hate those guys. I will never work for corporate America. I tried to work as a job as a hamburger flipper. I couldn't get that job because of illegal immigrants.
That's not in the book.
I couldn't even.
That's not even in the book.
Yeah, you talked about trying to get a job as a hamburger flipper or ice cream maker, and
oh, okay.
Yeah, it's in the book, and you know, so like
that's right.
It's like, but I'm not. One thing that I do have going for me is I'm not afraid to ask for help, and here's why you should help Rabbi Rabbs. Here's why you should support me, because you know I do so much for you with the Torah talks and with the with my essays here on MySpace, and this is really my medium. I'm suited